And I'm actually going to stop sharing my video so we can concentrate on the slides. And let me know if you can see my screen okay. I want to welcome all of you. As I said, my name is Ginger Bell, and I have been in the mortgage industry. I started out in the mortgage industry when my son was in first grade, and he graduated 2 years ago with his MBA. So have been in the industry for a very long time, have been producing a lot of content within the mortgage industry. And I am a 14 times best-selling author. And the very first book that I ever published was with Brian Tracy. I've done 2 books with Brian Tracy and a book with Jack Canfield, and then several other books that I've done on my own, as well as with others who we have collaborated on different topics. And through a lot of discussions with clients, I have helped them to publish their own books, as well as some discussions about helping you to be able to publish a book. And that's why I'm putting this webinar together, because I know a lot of you out there would really like to do a book, not really sure where to start. And so I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've done and the steps as far as getting started. So everything that I have done, whether it was doing a book, or whether it's doing a webinar like this, or whether it's creating a guide, or whether it's creating an educational system, or doing videos or a podcast, everything that I have done has always branded me. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is using a book to really brand yourself, because it's no longer a choice of having a presence online. You need to have that presence, and a book is a great way to do that. It gives you another avenue of having people find out about you, and especially when you're looking at publishing a book on someplace as public as Amazon. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because the focus of everything right now is really being the CEO of the brand called you. And a book gives you the opportunity to really do that. So let's talk about the benefits of publishing a book. And it can really provide you with several significant business benefits, including enhancing your branding and your credibility. So a published book establishes you, and it establishes you as an authority in your industry. It also enhances your brand's reputation. It builds your credibility, positioning you as a trusted expert and a thought leader. And when you think about this credibility can then attract more clients and more customers, more referral partners who perceive you as a reliable and knowledgeable source. A book can also increase your visibility and your reach. It acts really as a marketing tool. And that's when I first published my book with Brian Tracy, it was to be nothing more than that, a marketing tool. It introduces you and your business, and it brings you to a broader audience. And then when you combine that with effective promotion and distribution, your book can generate publicity. It can generate media coverage. It can open up speaking opportunities for you, and that increases your visibility, obviously attracting new prospects and referral partners. A book can also act as a lead generation and customer acquisition tool. And so it can serve as a powerful tool to attract potential clients and customers who are interested in your expertise and your insights. Also, readers who resonate with your book are more likely to seek out you and your services, leading to increased customer acquisition as well as business growth. A book also gives you a huge competitive advantage, and that's why I wrote my first book. I wanted to increase what I was doing as far as speaking nationally, and having a book gave me that opportunity because it differentiated me as an expert. So it really gave me that competitive edge. And that's what a book can do for you. Having a book in your name can be a compelling factor for potential clients and referral partners when deciding between you and your competitors, because they see you as that expert. It can also help for business expansion. It can be a stepping stone for expanding and diversifying your business. It definitely opens doors for new opportunities such as speaking engagements, consulting, getting into training, all of those things, as well as relationship building, networking. And writing a book allows you to just connect with a broader network of industry professionals, of influencers, and potential collaborators. It also can give you PR and media exposure. And when you do a book and you market it and you do the right PR on it, it can really open up a lot of those opportunities of being invited onto things like podcasts or to write industry articles. It also can be used for business growth, and it gives a legacy and influence. So basically, publishing a book can have huge business benefits. It also is a great way to brand you. So how do you leverage the power of publishing a book? And it really is strategically using it to maximize the impact on your branding and your lead gen efforts. And so when you get started with the book, the first thing you want to do is to develop an integrated marketing strategy. What that means is to create a comprehensive marketing plan that takes your book and incorporates it as a central component and combines in with all of the other things that you're doing. And so when you do this and you create this strategy, you want to outline the channels and the tactics that you'll use to promote your book and to reach your target audience. You can use a variety of marketing channels, including social media, email marketing, content marketing, public relations. All of these things you can amplify your book's visibility as well as generate leads. You can also collaborate with other individuals and other industry experts and get into their existing audience. So think about being able to leverage it with real estate agents and with financial planners. A book will establish you as an authority. And so you want to make sure and do just that. Leverage your book to position yourself as a thought leader. And think about how you can use your book in putting into speaking, whether it's a local workshop, a national workshop for a real estate association, speaking with your local chapters, all of those things. A book gives you something to bring along, something to be able to leverage with the things that you're doing. You can also combine it with things like podcasts that you're doing. And I know for several of you who are on this call, we produce podcasts for you, and it's a great combination to use with that as well. A book allows you to engage with your audience. And so leveraging your book to engage with your audience will help you to build and deepen those relationships. So you can use a book to create an email list, to follow up. You can also do things like webinars, workshops, book signings, things that you can interact with the audience, as well as offering some value-added resources. So supplemental resources. So if they get the book, then they can get maybe an additional course or a download. So combining things together as resources, as lead magnets on your website, which you should be doing, and we're going to talk about some strategies in with that. But it combines in with everything that you're doing. One of the most important things is to personalize your book with your branding. So many times I see people do books and they don't put their picture on the cover. And I've made that mistake. I did a book which was called The Edumarketer, and I did not put my picture on the cover. I'm actually going to go back and redo the cover, put my picture on it, because having your picture on that cover establishes you as the expert. And that's one of the things that is so important. A few weeks ago, and this is really what brought all of this to light for me about opening up an opportunity for you as originators to have your own book. I was on social media, happened to be over a weekend, and a loan originator in Florida had posted a picture of a book that he was giving out. He had a copy of the book, it was on the table with a cup of coffee, and he said, sending out books to real estate agents. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. It was a book about social media. But the book wasn't his book. And I was thinking, why is he sending out a book promoting somebody else's business? And then it was that aha moment for me. The reason why is because he didn't have his own book. And that's really what started this and provided that first aha as far as having that opportunity to give out your own book. So instead of giving out somebody else's book, to give out your book. And so I'm going to launch a little poll at this time. I'm going to ask you guys to hop on and answer for me, what is the primary reason for you for publishing your book? So you are on this webinar, you're taking time out of your day, stepping away from your business to be able to find out about publishing a book. So what is the reason why? And how long have you thought about it? Put into the Q&A. Chat is obviously disabled, but you can just put into the Q&A part. How long have you been thinking about this? Because I've talked to so many people. It's like, yeah, I'd love to write a book. I don't know where to get started, or you're busy. And so having the opportunity to do this. So I'm seeing questions coming in. Great questions. Do you recommend paperback or ebook? 2 questions on that, pros and cons. We will talk about that definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and end this poll here. I'm going to share with you because I think it's good to be able to see what other people are thinking as well. So you should be able to see the results. So it looks like the number one reason for publishing a book is to build credibility and authority. Absolutely the number one reason. That's why I published my first book. Increase visibility, used for lead gen, are tied, used to build relationships with referral sources, that's second. And then visibility, lead gen, competitive advantage, all of those things. Interestingly, media and PR exposure is the lowest for what you're saying, and I understand that, but it's really one of those things that I don't want you to step away from because it is a really great tool to use to be able to get some PR and media exposure. And that's so important to be able to have that out there, especially now in the AI world that we're living in, because those are the things that AI is looking for. And so having that is important. Okay, so I'm going to stop that share and get back to really what we talk about as far as the navigating the publishing process. And I am going to come back and address the question as far as paper or ebook with pros and cons for that as well. I want to start with really probably where your questions are is what's the process? And when you're looking at getting through the publishing process, from editing to cover design, it can seem like a very complex task, and there are a lot of steps to it. But with the right approach, you can streamline the process, and to get through that, really, it ensures a very smooth publishing journey. And so it begins with the step number 1, which is set your goals and your deadlines. So you want to first define your publishing goals, such as the desired launch date, your target audience, your book format, so print versus ebook. And let's go ahead and talk about that right now. So the print book, and the advantage to doing the print book is it gives you something to share. It gives you something to hand out. When you have an ebook, someone can download it and they can definitely read it online. But having that printed book gives you something to take with you. And especially if you would do a book that is geared towards real estate agents, it gives you something to take to different events. It gives you something to hand out at events. It gives you something to use in your speaking engagements. And I'll give you an example. We have a book we're publishing for a client. He has an event he's doing for real estate agents in August. And we just started with his book, and he wanted to know if he would be able to get 100 copies by the middle of August. And of course, the answer for him is yes, we will not have a problem with that. But Here he's going to a big real estate event, and there's going to be over 100 people there. So he's going to bring his book, and he's going to use that as a lead gen. An ebook, you don't get that. So really, you need to think about what you want to do your book, why you want to do it, what is it for? And then you can decide whether it's an ebook or whether it's a printed book. I personally have always done printed books because I do books for marketing. I can mail them to people. I can bring them along to events. In fact, I have an event I'm speaking at on Saturday in San Francisco, and I am bringing my books along there. I have one the following week, and I always bring my books along. We also use it for lead gen. And it's just something that tangible of getting something in your hand that I think is much more powerful. And it doesn't cost a lot to be able to do just a printed softcover book. And so the cost is not huge for you and when you're looking at doing it for marketing. So that's what you want to figure out as far as what you're doing. Then you get into number 2, which is the writing and the editing. And so you want to dedicate time to write consistently. You want to follow a writing schedule or a daily word count goal. For my first book that I published on my own, I was traveling a lot. And so I wrote out my outline. And then every flight I was on, my goal was to write 1 chapter. And I had a deadline in mind. And the great thing about that is being on an airplane, I was obviously held captive for a while. And so I closed everything out. I already had it outlined what I was going to do, and I knew what I was going to work on. And so you want to do that. Block it out in your schedule. You can collaborate with an editor. I recommend using an editor or a proofreader to help you through the editing process. And then also to keep it in one consistent voice. The next is formatting and typesetting. And so you want to choose a suitable book format. One of the most common book formats that is on all of the publication platforms is a 6.9 size. And that's a pretty standard size. And so you wanted to decide on your size. Now I have done, and we do our planners. I just did an LO podcast guide and an LO podcast planner for loan officers and for real estate agents. And we did that in an 8x10 size. The reason I did it bigger is because it was a planner. So I wanted to have it to where people could write in it, and it was easier to be able to do that. So depending on what kind of book you want, then you can decide what size you want to do it at. Okay, and I'm getting through some questions here, which is great. So the common size mark is a 6x9. So that's the most common size. And John, I'm going to get to your question as far as advertising. And Jason will get to your question. And Jesse, yes, the paperback book is important. You can do both. Like if you want to do an ebook, you can do an ebook. You can do an audiobook also, which I get a lot of requests for audiobooks, and I haven't actually done any of mine in audiobooks because, again, I use my books for marketing and promotion. And so that's the most important thing for me. But if you wanted to do something like that, you could. Okay, so the next thing is cover design. And so you want to create an eye-catching cover that aligns with you, with your target audience, and your overall branding. As I said, I want a picture of you on that cover because the reason you're doing this is for your branding. And just like doing videos, just like doing podcasts, you are front and center, and the same thing with a book. When I did my first book with Brian Tracy, we had several authors in there. And one of the things that the publisher did for us is we each had our own cover with Brian Tracy and us. And so I have my own books with myself and Brian Tracy. That's the whole reason I did the book with Jan Canfield, because I wanted to be able to have a book that had a picture of me and Jack Canfield, because that would build credibility. And so having your picture on the cover is very important. And then think about, what you want as far as the title. I think is important. But really the most important thing is to have something that's eye-catching, meets with your branding, and includes your picture. And then finally, seek professional advice. So if you're unfamiliar with the publishing process, you want to consider hiring a literary agent or a publishing consultant. I'm going to share with you an offer that we've put together. I have been helping others to publish their books. I've been doing it very much as a one-off, when people just approach me and say, can I hire you to do this? And I have never, ever put anything together of a service. And so I'm going to share with you an opportunity to be able to work with me and to help you publish your book. And then finally, you want to go through, proofread, make sure it's a good quality, check for things, errors, inconsistencies. I always order an author copy. And for some of you who are on this call right now that are working with me on writing a book, you've already received your author copy. Jesse, I know you've gotten yours. Dave, you've gotten yours. And I do that because I want you to see it. I want you to see what it looks like. I want you to hold it in your hands. I want you to see if it looks the way it should. Amazon gives you that ability, as well as all publishing companies, that you can order an author copy for a reduced author price. So you can take a look at that. And I always recommend doing that. I don't ever publish a book without taking a look at the author copy. And then finally, test and validate. And so you can review your copies. If you want to get some author copies, you can send it out to others. When I did the LO podcast planner with Carl White, we ordered author copies. He went through it with his team. I went through it with my team. We made a couple of changes on it. We had some different titles that we were looking at, and we played around with those and then came up with what we had. So that's really where you want to just spend a little bit of time to do that. But I don't want you to spend a whole bunch of time there, but know what the steps are. And when you follow these steps and you stay committed to that deadline, then it can help you to get the process done. Okay, so let's talk about places where you can self-publish. So Amazon Kindle Direct, which is probably the most common and one of the easiest to use and one of the most direct. I have all of my books on Amazon. And so that's one of the best ones to go on. It's also where most people go when they're looking for books. It's also where you can get established as a best-selling author. So every single book I have ever published, I have been able to get to a best-selling status. There's a process to it. I know the process and it works. And so Amazon is a great way to do that, because in addition to saying that you have a book, being able to say you are best-selling author is a huge benefit, a huge impact. And I honestly never realized how important that was in terms of branding until I was doing a series of training events for Fidelity National Title. And their senior vice president was traveling around with me. And I had my books. I think I had a book with Brian Tracy at the time that we had brought along. And when she introduced me, she says, one of my favorite things about Ginger is the fact that she's a best-selling author. So besides meaning something to you, it also means something to your referral partners and also to your customers, to be able to say that not only are you a professional in what you do, you're also a best-selling author, which means you know what you're talking about. So another publication site is called Ingram Spark, and you can publish your books there. They do not have a selling facility like Amazon does, so it's not a direct. So you have to work harder at being able to get that out to your distribution. Lulu is another one. BookBaby is another one. Barnes & Noble has opened up their direct publishing, so that's another one. And Maxim is one as well. So these are all places where you can self-publish. By far, the number one is Amazon. And so I'm going to go back. Jason. Okay, I'm going to address Jason. You are asking as far as recommended tools like Scrivener and Fiverr. I'm assuming that you're looking for editors to be able to do that. And yes, there are individuals you can find on those types of services. So if you're looking for someone to be able to help you with your editing, you can do that as well. And then, Jesse, you didn't get your copy yet. Okay. And Wayne, you're asking, will you get a replay to review at your convenience as a refresher? Yes, I'm going to send a copy of this recording along with the slide deck, and I'll send that out tomorrow to all of you. And Jason is asking, do you recommend publishing on multiple sites? So for publishing your book, if you're going to do it on multiple sites, the two I would recommend would be Amazon and Barnes and Noble, because they have a network where people will find you. If you want to just have a book where you can get it for distribution for events that you're at or for mailing out, then you can use some of the other sites. Ingram Spark I've used before, and I mean, it's easy to work with, but it doesn't have a distribution. So if you want to just download, their pricing's good. Maxim also has very good pricing. So I would look at all of those. But honestly, with Amazon Kindle, the cost for printing can be like $3 a book for Amazon. And so it's probably one of the best that is out there. So if you are going to publish on multiple sites, though, I would recommend Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Okay, so let's go through these steps. The first thing we talked about, write and edit. And so make sure you get through that. Determine your publishing format. Decide whether you want to publish your book in print or ebook or both. You can start off with one. So the first thing you want to do is decide how you're going to print it. And if you're going to print just a standard book, then you can start off there. And then it's just a reformat to put it into an ebook. But honestly, guys, for everything that you're doing for marketing, I would strongly encourage to do a print book. And then you can do the ebook later on. And then creating the professional book cover is very important. If you need help in doing that, then yes, that would be a place to go to Fiverr to be able to have that done. There's other designers. We do a lot of designing as far as books and book covers. So if you want to, you can schedule a time with us. The next is to format your book. Oops, I'm going to go back here. Format your book. And then after you do that, the next thing after you format is to get, it's called an ISBN number. And so it stands for the International Standard Book Number. And this you will need for publication. So if you're just going to print a book and you're not going to officially publish it anywhere, you're just going to use it as a handout, you do not need to get the ISBN number. But if you are going to publish it and sell it on some place like Amazon, then you're going to get an ISBN number. And so Amazon gives it to you for free. Places like Maxim and Ingram Sparks, you have to purchase it. I think Ingram Sparks is around $50 to purchase the number. Amazon honestly just has a link. They assign it to you. So it's super simple to do it on Amazon. And again, that's why I love publishing on Amazon. And then you can register your book with the Copyright Office to protect your intellectual property rights. As long as you're putting, and I always encourage to put copyright into your book, to make sure you're protecting yourself, but usually that's enough in order to do that. And then choose your publishing platform. Decide how you want to do that. If you want to do your Amazon, which is the Kindle Direct Publishing, which again, it's a free place to do it. They give you the ISBN number, so you don't have to pay for that. and they actually will sell it. And you can become a bestseller on that as well. So those are the things you want to think about on your publishing. Setting your price and your distribution. So when you publish onto Amazon, they're going to give you what the cost is to print your book, not including tax or shipping. And so the standard cost, depending on how big your book is usually between $3 and $7. My edu marketing book that I made, that is a video planner, we did in color. I had spent a lot of money designing it. I had a graphic designer design it. It was beautiful. We printed it in color. The cost is higher on that because the inside of that is in color. If I were to do it in just black and white, which I have done on my other planners to keep the cost down, then it doesn't cost as much. So you want to decide if it's going to be color or if it's going to be black and white on the outside. Your cover always in color, and I always recommend doing a glossy finish. And so those are things that are important to be able to do. And again, order an author copy. And then make sure you review, you proofread it, and then think about what you're doing for your marketing and your promotion. So develop a marketing plan to promote your book. And this can include creating an author website, which Amazon gives you an author website, which I know, Jesse, we need to update yours and get that a little more in depth. I always recommend if you're putting it onto Amazon, make sure you get a good author website there. You can have your own website. Make sure you're putting together a plan. Let people know that you have a book coming out. And so make sure to reach out to people, ask them to review. So if you're selling it on Amazon, then ask someone to give you your reviews, because people do look at that. And then track your sales and your strategy, what you're using for your marketing strategy, and figure out what you need to do to adjust your efforts. The reason I did 2 books with Brian Tracy is because I took everything that I had learned in the first book that I wrote with him, and I adjusted it. And then I really enhanced what I did on my second book. And I increased my marketing, and I did a lot more articles around it. I did a lot more speaking engagements around it. I did a lot more book signings. And the book signings, I tell you, it's amazing on the book signings what having a book does for you. So when you're doing it, you publish your book, get a bunch of copies of your book, take a picture of you signing them before you mail them out. Sign your book. And that means so much to people to be able to do that. I honestly had no idea how much it meant. Several years ago, I was speaking at an event in Vegas, and I had brought along, I think, probably about 20 books. And I was there speaking on behalf of a client. And so at the end of the presentation, I had made little cards, and I said, come and pick up a card at the end of the meeting, and then take it to my client's booth, because they had a booth. It was at the NAMM conference. So go to the booth and then trade in your card for a book. And my client calls it the Elvis moment, because they honestly rushed the stage wanting to get one of these cards so they could get a free book. And I'd never had anything like that happen, but it was one of those things. They wanted a copy of the book. They came, we did signings, people took pictures, they posted it on social media. And if you know me, I am not a publicity person at all. So I was a little taken aback by it, but that means a lot to people. And that's one of the things that you can do with a book. So think about, if you have a book for real estate agents and you hold a workshop and you say, for the first, 20 people, or if you use it as a give out, if somebody's answering questions, and then sign them at the end. And make sure and take pictures as you're signing them and post those on social media, because it really means a lot, not just to you, but it means a lot to them. Okay, so let's talk about who you can write a book for. And I always like to divide it into 2 different categories. And so just like if you're doing a video or just like if you're doing a podcast, identify who your audience is. And so you've got your realtors and your financial planners. So what are some of the things that you could do books around? You could do a book around marketing, around leveraging what they're doing and their expertise. You could do a book helping them help their buyers through lending. So helping consumers understand the buying process, what they need to do is getting pre-qualified. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do that you could give to real estate agents that would help them or financial planners in their business. Your second audience would be obviously consumers. And you talk about topics for them: buying a first home, investing, reverse lending, condos, moving in, a parent's guide to moving. Dave, I think you're on this call. I saw you registered. I thought I saw your name. Dave Steinberg, who is always so good at pushing me to think outside the box and do things. And honestly, a lot of the conversation we're having about books is because of Dave and Jesse from conversations that we've had. To be able to take their expertise and to put it into a book. But for Dave, we have a parent's guide to moving, combining that with another book, which I'll share with you in a minute. So think about the topics you can have, and it ties along with what you're doing for videos, but it brings it into a broader area as far as what you can do a book about. Okay. So now let's talk about the marketing strategy. And we've kind of talked about a higher end of it, but now I want to get into a little more detail about it. And so what I want to do is launch another poll, and I want to know what you're currently doing for your marketing. And you can select more than one of these things. So are you currently doing social media videos, putting them onto YouTube, putting them onto your social media channels? Do you have a YouTube channel? What are you doing on there? Do you have a podcast? What are you doing for your podcast? Do you have a blog on your website? What are you writing on your blog? Do you send out an email newsletter? I've just started a new project, which some of you will hear about in the next month, which is a loan officer newsletter. And it's a newsletter that is going to go out with different industry information and insights. We're actually going to have loan officers writing on it as well as other individuals. And again, it's another opportunity to be seen. Also, writing industry articles. This is an area that I think is underutilized, and things, especially using ChatGPT, that you all can get into. And then what do you have as far as lead gen on your website? So these are all things, and I'm going to go ahead and let's see, you're still weighing in there. So thinking about those, how can you use a book combining in with all of these things? So video, you could honestly just take a chapter out of the book and do a video on it and just say, hey, in this video, I'm going to share with you one of the chapters in my book, Buying in Today's Market. And this chapter talks about what you need to do as far as getting pre-qualified. And if you'd like a copy of my book, go to the website. You can have a lead gen form and they can fill that out. Whether it's on your social media, whether it's on your YouTube channel, you can do that. Podcasts. And I know some of you that are on this call are doing podcasts. This is a great way to be able to tie this in with your podcast. And you could invite a guest on and say, hey, I've written a book talking about, buying a home. And you could meet with a real estate agent and say, in my book, in chapter 1, we talk about, what they need for pre-qual. Why is that important as a real estate agent? So you could tie it in there. Blog, that's a no-brainer, being able to write different. You could honestly, again, take a chapter out of the book and put it into a blog article. Your email newsletter, obviously letting people know you have a book, they can get a copy of it, and taking experts out of those chapters. So I'm going to end this poll. I'm going to share it with you guys so you can see. So it looks like I am happy to see this. 82% of you are doing social media videos. Yay. And then YouTube channel, not as many on your YouTube channel. Hey, if you're doing social media videos, you can have a YouTube channel. The reason I recommend everyone have a YouTube channel is because it brings you into a broader audience. Social media is a captured audience of people who follow you, whereas your YouTube channel, you have a better chance of getting in the mix of a search. So if you're not doing YouTube, I'd really recommend it, especially if you're doing your social media videos, because you can easily put those onto YouTube. Podcasts. So only 9% are doing podcasts. Guys, if you're not doing a podcast, you should be doing a podcast. It's one of the easiest things to do, and it gives you a reason to call your real estate partners, your financial planners, your builders, all of those, and invite them onto a podcast. So I would really encourage you to start that. Blog is another great way to be able to get your expertise out there. And with the use of AI does not read what's happening on social. So having a presence outside of what you're doing on social, especially for social posts, is important. So having a blog on your website is going to increase your SEO. It's going to increase your visibility. Email newsletter, obviously that builds your database. Writing articles, I'd love to see you doing that. Now, it's interesting, only 9% of you have lead gen handout on your website. So this is one of the easiest things to do, and it's one of the things that we are incorporating into the whole process of getting a book. And I know, Dave, we're working on that with you to set up a lead gen. And you think about it, if you have a book that you are going to send to someone, what kind of information are they going to give you to get a copy of that book? Chances are it's going to be what? Good information, because they need to have what? A good address for you to mail them a copy of the book, rather than just a Gmail email that they may fill out. And that's why I love books. If you get a solid address from them, you're going to be able to, number one, tell if what? They're renting, or if they're owning. You're going to be able to do some research on them. You've got a good lead. And so using a book as a lead gen, or even just using some kind of a handout on your website, or you can do a two-step process where maybe you just have a handout. Hey, you would like a copy of our Parents Guide to Home Buying. And then you email a copy of that. And then the next step is, would you like a copy of our book, A Parent's Guide to Home Buying? And then you mail them a copy of it. You know, it's that whole process. And that's what I want you to think about in starting a book, is how you can incorporate it into all of your business. So if you have something like a podcast, then you can create episodes that discuss topics that are related to the book. You can also offer insights. You can do snippets. You can entice listeners into doing that. You can promote your book with the podcast. And then you can also focus and feature guests or experts on your podcast and talk about their experiences with related topics related to your book. And so you can tie it in with everything that you're doing with your book. You can also create social media promotions around this, and this is very important. And so you want to think about always doing a launch. And so starting with, we do a sneak peek, and it's like a little launch thing. It has a little, drawn back picture. It's like, hey, it's coming. What is it? To announce your book launch. And then you can start by sharing just little snippets out of the book. Engage with your audience, get some buzz and excitement. You can run contests, and I've done this where it's contests. I talked about the Elvis moment as far as giving things away. You could do an entire book signing to where you have people come and you can sign your books. And so all of those things you can do to leverage your social media. You can do ads if you want to, target specific demographics, interest groups who may be interested in your book. But all of these things is tying that into creating that strategy. You can also do an email marketing campaign. And so with an email campaign, you can build an email list of interested readers. And so as part of your launch, you say, hey, would you like to, be notified when our book is live? And you start building an email list from that. It can be with potential customers. It could be with your real estate partners. And then you can send personalized emails to your subscribers. You can offer exclusive content. So maybe you have your book and then you have something that's a one-off from that, like the course. Hey, you like this? I also have a course. Or you can maybe do special discounts if you're going to sell your book. You can include a book trailer, which can include some testimonials. So you can start, and this could be something that's ongoing. So somebody reads your book. If you're doing a book for consumers, they read your book, it allows them to, get a home and they didn't think they could get a home. Or if you're doing a book that's marketing for real estate agents and it helps them as far as doing that, then get testimonials. And this is the ongoing. So that's the other thing I love about books. Videos, you do one video and you do another video and you do another video. Books have a long shelf life. A lot of things you can do for marketing around your book. And so every single thing you do builds into the other. Okay, I'm gonna look for some questions. I think you guys are all good. Okay, John, you have a question. If advertising on your website, do you then mail out the printed copy? Yes. And it is so simple on Amazon to go into your authors, your KDP, it's called KDP Connect, and you just order an author copy so you can send them a copy from your KDP account and you send it at your cost and the cost of shipping. And if there's tax, I'm in Oregon, we don't have tax here, but if there's tax, and that's it. And so it makes it very simple. You can assign it to someone to do, and it's very cost effective. And again, the last thing I love about a book is you get a good address because they're not going to give you a bad address. Okay, so let's talk about book launch. So you can organize a virtual or physical book launch event where you can share your book, you can interact with people, you can provide signed copies, you can collaborate even, talk to a local bookstore. If you get it onto Barnes & Noble and you do that, talk to them. Talk to your libraries, your community centers, your chambers, host book readings, or do some kind of an author Q&A session or panel discussion. And then obviously we talked about leveraging it through social media, starting with your launch and then going around everything. And then asking people to spread the word. I think that's important to do that. So we've talked a lot about different ways for marketing, and the landing page for lead gen, I think, is one that is a critical part of it. And so when you're doing your book, whether it's for your real estate agents, which your real estate agents, if you're doing a book for real estate agents, then you're probably going to use that more for live events you're doing, but you could create a website for it. So you could have a dedicated landing page. If you're doing a book for real estate agents, you want a dedicated landing page for that. If you're doing a book for consumers, then you want a dedicated landing page for that. If you're doing one for both, then you want two different landing pages. And so design that, make it a lead capture. And so a lead capture, you're going to gather their information. So they need to submit their name, their mailing address. If you want to have them cover shipping, then you can have a nominal fee. And I've done that before too. It's like, hey, I'll send you a copy of my book for free. You just have to pay for shipping. So you charge them a couple bucks and that covers your shipping. And then you can send them a copy, depending on what you want to do. And you can move it back and forth. You can set up a website and say, hey, for the first month, I'm going to give it away. And you can say limited time. But when you're creating your lead gen, you want to talk about the benefits of your book. What are the points in your book? If you have testimonials that have been written about your book, make sure and add those. Any awards or positive reviews, you want to add that on there. You can offer a free sample chapter or bonus content for visitors to sign up. And like I said, you can do a 1-2 step process where you can say, hey, sign up for my free download. And then you send them a PDF download and it's like, hey, you like this? How would you like a copy of my book? So you kind of put them through a process. But seriously, utilizing any kind of a lead gen or a pop-up, something on your landing page to capture visitors information for future marketing is probably the number one thing that I see in our industry that we are not doing. So I want to remind you all that you are your own unfair advantage. And so I'm going to, and some of you have already answered this in the Q&A. How soon would you like to publish your book? And I want you to be honest. If you've been thinking about publishing your book for a while, how soon would you like to do it? I know when I did my first book, I had told my son I want to write a book. And he says, yeah, you've been talking about that for a while, Mom. And so I said, you know what? You're right. I'm going to put a deadline in. And I did. And was able to get it done. See, that was in January. We published in August. So within 8 months, from beginning to end, I was a best-selling author, which was what my goal was. And so looking at this, and I'm going to let you weigh in a little bit while you're doing that. Jason has a question. What are your thoughts on intros and forwards in books? And so, Jason, you said you had thought of inviting a boss to provide an intro or someone else. Yeah, intros are great. I mean, if you want to have someone write an intro for your book, I think that's great. Depending on who the book is for, I would think about that. So if it is for maybe realtors, then you may want to have another very successful realtor write a forward for you. If it is for consumers, then yeah, you could ask your boss to write one, or you could ask a real estate agent or someone else. So forwards are good. Sometimes when you're first getting started, it may be hard to get someone to do that. So it's not as critical in our industry as much as if you're maybe wanting to get on the New York Times bestseller list and you want to get someone like Gary Vee to write a forward or something like that. But it definitely doesn't hurt to be able to do that. Okay, I'm going to end this poll. So it looks like almost half of you aren't ready yet. Okay, so those who aren't ready yet, what's keeping you? Type into the Q&A, what is keeping you from getting started? Because it's those things that I think we want to look at to help you overcome. For the next percentage within the next 90 days, completely doable. And so having an idea, yes, a goal, set it. 12% within the next 30 days. I like seeing that. And then rounding out at 6% in the next 60 days. So can you get a book published within the next 30 days? Yes, you can, but you're going to need some help. And so you're also going to need to concentrate on it. But the great news is it is doable. And we do have some ways to be able to help you to do that. For the rest of you who are not ready yet, start looking at, what is keeping you from doing it. Okay, so I'm seeing setting aside time to pen my thoughts, content, and Lee, yourself. Yes. Rodney says, if I started working on a book today, what is a reasonable time frame from start to publish to get a book ready to hand out? So it depends on how big the book is going to be, Rodney. It depends on how far along you are in the thought process, and it depends on how dedicated you are. So from beginning to end, if you are going to map it out, and I'll give you an example. So Danny Ruiz wanted to write a book on TikTok. He had great success on TikTok. And so from beginning to end, and only because he didn't work as diligently as he should, he did get it done and we got it published and it was best-selling in 6 months. And so it is completely doable. The first step is really to set the deadline and then to outline it. And so I'm not sure who put down the anonymous setting time aside to pen your thoughts. Think about just recording. I mean, if you did an audio recording, I always recommend begin with a template. And if you begin with the end in mind, it's like, what do you want people to walk away? At the end of the day, when they're done reading the book, what do you want to have them walk away from? And then go back, put together an outline. Every book that I've ever written begins with an outline. And then from that outline, then I can start creating the content. So is it doable, Rodney, to be able to get that done in 90 days for you? Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is, and I'll just tell you, a lot of times people don't read books. And my first book that I did with Brian Tracy, I called a good friend of mine, Tim Mills, who's in the industry, and he's written several books. And I said, Tim, should I do this and write this book with Brian Tracy? And it was a sizable financial investment for me to do it. And he said, yes, absolutely. It's one of the best marketing things that you could ever do, is to be able to write a book. And he said, it's one of the best marketing things you can do. And the reality is, most people don't read the book, but it's your best marketing and calling card. And he actually shared with me, he puts in the middle of his books, I don't know if he does it now, but he did at the time. He puts, congratulations, you've made it this far. Here is my personal cell phone number. If you call me, I will fly you to Nashville and take you to lunch. And he said he's had one person take him up on it. The reason to do a book is for marketing. And I know a lot of us, we get caught up on, we want to do a book. Obviously, you want to share your insight and your thoughts, but the reality is it's one of the best marketing tools you can do. And I'll share with you a video from the first book that I wrote with Brian Tracy that elaborates on exactly why to do a book.
When I was a young man, I started asking the question, why is it that some people are more successful than others? And one of the things I found is that they had leverage. In other words, they had special factors that enabled them to move ahead far faster. Number one is knowledge. They had superior knowledge because they kept learning and growing. The second is skill. Skill is a critical leverage factor. When people know that you are good at what you do, they will pay you vastly more. They will hire you vastly faster. They will quibble less because they know you're the best at what you do. And the third part is image. And image has to do with your credibility, with how people think about you, with how people talk about you when you're not there. And so when you have written a book and gone through all of the efforts of getting published, people think of you in a very different way from people who have not.
The National Association of Experts, Writers, and Speakers would like to recognize and congratulate Ginger Bell on her XP Award tonight.
So that's what's important to remember. If people like you, they will listen to you. But if they trust you, they will do business with you. And that's one of the reasons to do a book, is it builds that trust. So we have a couple of books that we have created that are available for you to customize and to personalize. One is a children's book that's called New Home Adventure. And I did this at the beginning of the year. And we hired an illustrator who's a Disney illustrator to be able to write it. And so this is one thing that you could do that is a very simple thing to add to your marketing. And it provides what we call standout marketing. So if you want some information about that, it is at shareastorybook.com. And we have a small setup fee to set that up. And then it's just the cost of the books that's to do that. So that's one thing you can do. The next thing you can do, and we've created some templates that are pre-written that make it affordable for you to be able to easily get a book published within the next 30 days onto Amazon. And I have a website you can go to. You can set up a strategy call with me, whether you want to have one of our already established books that you can customize and personalize, and we will help you with that. Or if you want to write your own. And I know we have a question from an anonymous attendee talking about what is the monetary investment to write a book. I can tell you it can be anywhere if you're going to self-publish it, that it's going to cost you around $2,500 by the time you get through with your editor, into the designer, into your cover, to do all of that. If you're going to hire a ghostwriter, it's probably going to run you between $5,000 and $7,000. So you have to look at what's the return on that. And, at the end of the day, if you're writing it for your real estate agents, you're building the rapport with them. If you're writing it for consumers, it's the long-term investment. And so that's the thing you have to look at in order to do that. For me, my investment on my first book with Brian Tracy was $12,000, but I can tell you it was a great investment for me because it took me to the next level, which is why I did it and why I wanted to. And in doing it, every time since then, probably the minimum I have spent for self-publishing has been around $2,500 per book. So that's on average about what it costs you to be able to get started. So here is my advice to you. Start before you're ready. If you've been thinking about it, get started. We've gone through the basics. You really don't need to prepare. You need to begin. So I'm going to send you a copy of this recording. I'm going to send you a copy of the slide deck. And I'm going to invite you to set up a strategy call with me. And this I've set up because I've had so many, these are the books just this year that I've published or we're working on publishing. And so I wanted to be able to open this and as an offering to others who are at that point in their business careers to say, I want to go to the next step and say what that looks like. So you can go to lobookclub.com, schedule a strategy call with me. I do have a small investment for my time. It's $150 for an hour with me. And if at the end of the hour you haven't received value, I will return your money, no questions asked. So, but it is for people who are serious that do want to take it to the next step. So whether you want to use content we already have, or you want to work with a ghostwriter, we can help you to do that. And so it really begins with setting up a strategy call and then creating a plan, which we will help you to do that. And my final question that I'm going to ask is, are you interested in joining a group of authors, other LO, Loan Originator authors, to collaborate on marketing ideas? So there are very, 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 very few authors in our industry. Guys, nobody's writing about the loan process. Nobody's helping to educate realtors on what they need to know about. And we have been doing a lot of, videos and podcasts and things like that. And I think the book takes it to the next level. But I think working together to be able to help each other come up with marketing ideas and collaborate, I think would be beneficial. And if you're open to that, then what I would like to do is to invite you to start a group. Just a very informal group to be able to share ideas, to strategize, and to be able to help to share your expertise. And so I would love to be able to do that. If you do, and you're interested in that, I'm going to end this because it looks like about 88% of you said that you are unsure. So, 88% said yes, 13% said unsure. And those of you who are unsure, that's fine. You can get started, see how it goes. But what I'll do is you can contact me. So this is my contact information, which is Meet Ginger Bell. My website is EduMarketing. And if you're interested in taking it to the next level, then you can go to the lobookclub.com. And I'm going to see if there are any questions. So Wayne said, you mentioned templates. Are you sending them or where do we get them? So we have templates. No, I'm not sending them. Those are templates that we have as far as books. And so we do have them available That if you want to customize those, then those are available for purchase. But unfortunately, we've spent a lot of time, energy, and money on creating those templates, so we are not sharing those. But if you would like to set up a strategy call, then we can definitely talk about what that looks like. And I do not see any other questions. So if you do have questions, please contact me. My contact information is at meetgingerbell.com. And I thank you all for your time. And if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know.